Welcome into the Tech Ed Podcast. I am your host, Matt Kirkner. What is it like to be sitting at a conference with literally 4,000 people walking through this conference? In fact, I counted chairs yesterday in the big area where they did the keynotes this morning here at the Association for Career Technical Education, CareerTech Vision 2022 event in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it was incredible. There was literally like 4,200 chairs in the area, and I think all 4,200 of those people are in the exhibit area where we are live streaming on YouTube with the Tech Ed Podcast, walking through such an incredible amount of excitement as we think about the future of career technical education, not just here in Las Vegas, not just in the state of Nevada, but across the country and really around the globe. That is what we are going to be talking about all day today, all day tomorrow here at CareerTech Vision, and we are kicking it off with our very first guest of the day. We are so honored and so excited to welcome to the Tech Ed Podcast Snehal Bhakta, who is the Assistant Director of Career Technical Education for the Clark County School District. Snehal, thank you so much for coming on and joining us on the Tech Ed Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Matt. Super excited to be here, and I actually think there's like 6,000 people here with all the people walking around.
Is it really that many?
Yeah,
6,000?
I'm just wondering where they sat. If there's only 4,200 or 4,200 chairs, where did the other 1,800 people go?
Yeah, I think, well, the rest of them might have been out here in the exhibit area where we are live broadcast. There's so much energy here. I think there's so much pent-up demand for an event like this after people were, doing their Zoom calls and spending their time doing virtual meetings, and we've certainly learned a lot from that, lots of benefits that came from that. But I was in New Orleans last year for this event. It was fantastic. There's just a level of excitement and energy here that I haven't seen at an ACTE event in years. So it's just really, really great to be with you.
Lots of hugs, lots of high fives, fist bumps. The energy is outstanding.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same way. So when we think of energy, we're going to get into some topics here today that I think exude the energy that's going on in career technical education. You're really a game changer. You're a leader in the world of CTE. Snehal, we're looking forward to learning more about all the great things that you're doing. Now, you're the CTE administrator for one of the largest school districts in the entire United States. So give our audience the sense of just the size of your district and the demographics of the students that you're serving.
Yeah. So Clark County School District, we are the 5th largest school district in the country, over 300,000 students.
Wow.
Our CTE department, we support 50 high schools and 60 middle schools, and we are the largest geographic school district in the country, meaning here in Nevada, all of our school districts are organized by county. So not only do we include the city of Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson, but rural areas like Mesquite and Laughlin, Boulder City. It's just immense. So sometimes it takes me 3.5 hours just to drive in between high schools.
Does it really?
Yeah, no traffic.
Do you know how many square miles the district is, or roughly?
A lot. I don't know exactly. It's a lot.
Absolutely. And we were talking as we were warming up about why this is such a passion of yours, but tell our audience, why is this so important to you?
In technical education, it's just so important. It's a passion project of mine, and I just love doing it.
Really, really important work. And you think about, first of all, your background, and I want to talk about that a little bit, which is really unique in education, right? I spent tons of time in education. Similar to you, I came over to this world myself about 7 years ago. I was a manufacturing CEO for a bunch of years and got excited about what we say is securing the American dream for the next generation of STEM and workforce talent. Really, really important. And of course, that talent comes in all shapes and sizes, and which is why diversity and inclusion are such important things to us as well. We'll get into gender diversity here in just a second. But your background is really, really interesting, Snehal. Yeah. So the time in the tech world, I think you mentioned as we were chatting, KPMG, Accenture, several of the large national consulting firms, and a lot of times we associate them with maybe the world of public accounting, but huge presence in organizations like that from a consulting standpoint too. Before we get into this topic, I want to talk about next, which is girls in STEM. Tell our audience a little bit about how your experience in tech and your experience in the private sector influences the work that you're doing in Clark County.
Yeah. So when I worked in tech, I could probably count between my two hands the number of female professionals I worked with. And, having worked in that industry for 10 plus years, worked for, dozens and dozens of different companies, thousands of employees, the fact that I only had the opportunity to work with, maybe 9, 10 female professionals was just, in my mind, it was just terrible. So when I came to education, I really wanted it to be almost like my mission to, hey, I want to diversify our workforce. I want to help the country diversify its workforce. So, I started our Girls in Tech, Girls in STEM program about 7 years ago here in Clark County. It's probably 8 years now. And it's both professional, but it's personal for me. I mentioned I have a young daughter in high school. She loves tech just like I love tech. We love playing video games and different things like that. So, just making sure that, as women and, underserved, underrepresented students get to the workforce, that it's more inclusive, it's more open. So, and really exposing them to those opportunities. Because I think that's one thing that's lacking, is that we don't do a good enough job exposing young people, our students, whether it's women, African American, Black, Hispanic, Latinx, to all the opportunities aware all the opportunities they have available to them, whether it's in STEM or technology, coding, programming, engineering, so on and so forth.
I reference quite often a study that was done now several years ago by Skills USA and the Manufacturing Institute, where they looked at what influenced young people's career pathways. And they interviewed 23,000 young people, so it was a statistically significant survey to be sure. And they were all people in their early to mid 20s, and they said, what influenced the career pathway that you chose? And when I ask people, what do you think is on the list, they'll give me, a lot of the answers that were on the list. Things like teachers influence career pathways, parents influence career pathways, social media, maybe friends, family members, those kind of things. But the number one influencer of a young person's career pathway, and it's not even close, is their own interest and experiences while they're in middle school and high school. So, just listening to you talk about your daughter and interest in tech and interest in video games, there is just a huge space in the world of technology, and in particular to some of my passions, the world of manufacturing. For women, one of the things that I always thought was interesting, we had one of the largest, in fact, the largest design and fabrication company for the paint, powder coat, and e-coat industry for a number of years. We sold that company back in 2014. But we had just a ton of state-certified welders that worked in those businesses, and several of our welders, not a significant number, but several were women. And I tell people, and sometimes it offends the guys a little bit, the women were the best welders. They had the best
surprising.
attention, best attention to detail. They were patient in the way they did their work. Workmanship was really, really important to them.
Right.
And there's just this huge opportunity in STEM and in the world, in my world of advanced manufacturing, for anybody and everybody, certainly including women. Let's talk a little bit more now about girls in STEM. You mentioned that, girls tech, girls in tech. What are some of the ways that you found success in getting more girls interested in STEM careers?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did when we first started the program is we did a lot of research, right? We did our homework. In education, you got to do your homework.
Absolutely, on both sides of the fence, right? On the student side and on the administration
on the adult side, yeah.
Yep.
And I think one thing we realized is that we need to provide students these opportunities, this access to technology, access to learning at the earliest possible age possible, right?
Yep.
So many times we focus on just high school students or college students, but realize we need to get into middle schools and even to some degree into like the early elementary grades, fifth grade, sixth grade, because that's when students start to feel like, okay, I like this, I don't like that. It's when social dynamics come into play. So really what we started to do is targeting our middle schools. Our middle schools here in Clark County are 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and providing those female students opportunity to either maybe go to their feeder high school and talk to the IT teacher there, talk to some IT students there, kind of get a feel for it, the hands-on coding, hands-on design, build, engineering, different things like that. And then we also provided them opportunities to go visit local companies here. Companies would host our students for like lunch and learns, where they'd have maybe a female a director of IT come and talk to the students, as a role model, provide some mentorship opportunities, and doing that on a continual basis to really kind of get that spark started with those young people.
Absolutely. So again, it's all about those experiences. So whether it is a middle school student, a middle school girl in this case, going to the high school, seeing the cool programs that are there, maybe being inspired about something, around something, thinking about their future, getting out into the workplaces and seeing what it's like to work in tech, what it's like to work in manufacturing and in other STEM careers, really important. And I think one of the things that gets lost, and that's one of the reasons that I think your efforts, Snehal, are so impressive, is that what folks don't realize, especially for girls, they will start turning off to certain career pathways as early as middle school.
Absolutely.
There was a gentleman from Anoka Technical College in Hennepin Technical College in Minneapolis, or near Minneapolis, who wrote his master's dissertation and thesis on the whole idea of girls in STEM and girls in manufacturing. And what they found was it's not so much that a girl says, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to be a doctor, or I'm going to be a nurse when they're in middle school, but they start thinking about what they're not going to be. I'm not cut out to be in tech. I'm not cut out to be in manufacturing. And once you lose them, it's almost impossible to get them back. And so getting them excited at those young ages, so 6th, 7th, 8th grade, as you suggest, really, really important. One of the things we love on the Tech Ed podcast to really make these stories real for our audience is to talk about specific individuals, to point to, a specific student, a girl that was inspired to STEM pathway by the work that you're doing. Do you have an example or two that you can?
I didn't say too much. So one thing is that, she came up to one of our high school days where we had a girls in STEM day at a high school. And I could still see that she wasn't engaged. So, I would go over there and just say hi, kind of fist bump her, try to get the energy going.
Sure.
And still nothing happened. But at the end of that day, we had a panel of speakers. And we encouraged the audience, all these middle school girls, to ask questions by giving them prizes. I was completely surprised. Hannah was the first in line to the mic.
Really?
And the first question she asked this panel of speakers, these female professionals, is that, hey, if I go into a career in tech, can I wear a dress to work?
Huh.
And that baffled me.
Right.
It baffled me because I was like, so she's not necessarily, she likes tech, she's interested about, but what she's worried about is being a female, wearing a dress.
Right.
And I love the answer that this female professional said. She said, honey, it doesn't matter what you wear. As long as you know what you can do whatever you want. So it doesn't matter what you wear. And that was the message she said. And since then, Hannah, in our high school program, she organized her own Girls Who Code club. She went to college here locally. She's majoring in computer engineering. And she just recently got an Aspire IT grant to do more outreach to young people to encourage more young females. Because I think she saw the work we were doing, and now she wants to give back as well. So just a tremendously heartwarming story that, she got that answer, and you know what? I could have said that same answer. I don't think she would have believed me. But I think when she heard it from another female professional, that, hey, it doesn't matter what you wear.
Right.
You can wear whatever you want and still be successful in tech or engineering or whatever. And that really kind of gave her that motivation, that interest, that spark to continue on.
That's such a fascinating story on so many levels. Part of it is that, sometimes we think about the obvious questions that a girl might be thinking about in terms of, a STEM career. Am I going to excel? Is this something that's going to interest me? What kind of a job am I going to have? What kind of people am I going to work with? Can I wear a dress to work? Can I still be
something as simple as that?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Nobody would have thought of that. My wife Renee, who's no stranger to the folks at the Tech Ed podcast, is a master's degreed engineer.
Oh, wow!
And went to engineering school. Started in engineering school in 1987.
Yeah.
So when you think about how much work we still have to do to get girls and young women interested in STEM careers. Think about 35 years ago, how much work there was. And I think she was one of 4 female engineering students in the whole engineering program. And she went to one of the largest engineering programs in the Midwest.
You hit the lottery with her.
Yeah, right, exactly. In many ways, not just that one, believe me, right? Exactly. And I promised you we'd drag Melissa Martin into the discussion, our producer here at the Tech Ed podcast. Yeah. Who knows Renee is laughing like crazy here.
Yeah, and she's amazing. Melissa's amazing.
She is amazing. There's no question about it.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can check that promise off my list. Another amazing woman in STEM in her very own way.
And since we're talking about amazing women, so I have to share this story with you, Matt. So my daughter, since I've done a lot of diversity and equity work, both in the private sector, DEI work in the private sector and the public sector, my daughter, to some degree, has been a guinea pig, but I like to try new things out.
Right.
So the first time I took her to a department store, it was called Target. Some of you may know it as Target, right?
You got it.
So first time I took her to Target, we all know what toy aisles market to what type of gender, right? So I was very mindful. So first time I took her there, I walked her along the side, the toy aisle, up and down, and then I put her in the center of the toy aisle, and I told her, honey, go to wherever you want to go.
Yep.
She went straight for the Legos and the action figures and the cars.
I love it.
To this day, she's never owned a doll. She and my mom hates it because my mom wants to buy her every single doll out there.
Right.
But my mom hates buying her like Marvel action figures, Batman, Star Wars, all that stuff.
Right.
Legos, right? But I gave her that choice, and I think offering that to students, whether they're female students, African American, Black, whomever, we got to give them the choice and let them choose. All we can do is provide them the option, but they have to make that choice.
Right. My wife Renee's line was always, I hated playing with Barbie dolls when I was a kid. When people, for her, and certainly nothing wrong with that. I've got a daughter myself who loves her American Girl dolls.
Absolutely, nothing wrong with that.
Yep, and actually found her way into a STEM career as well. She's on the data science side and business analytics. But and a girl. So we can take credit for a few women in STEM between the two of us, and in your case, 300,000 students being inspired toward careers in STEM. So many of them girls.
We were both
and
great
women.
allies to our daughters.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep, that's exactly right. So we're here at the Association for Career Technical Education CareerTech Expo. It's been CareerTech Vision to be specific. It's been just an absolutely fabulous week. I mean, just people coming in and out. I was here. I've been here since Tuesday, so today's the first day of the exhibit. But there's been people having meetings here all week long. I know maybe you're just getting started on kind of walking through, but what's one of those things that you're either really excited, Snehal, or have already seen here at CareerTech Expo that you want to share with our audience? What's been interesting to you?
Yeah, I'm super excited. So yesterday we actually had a film screening. The first time there's been a film screening at this conference, and we film screened a movie called Pioneers in Skirts. And it follows the journey not only of 3 young women from middle school, high school, on to college as they're learning about STEM and technology, but it also chronicles female professionals, challenges they have in the workplace being a female, as well as their fathers, their dads, male allies and advocates. Just a tremendously wonderful impact documentary. We had a packed theater yesterday, and the best part is the producer and director flew into town and did a live Q&A, surprised the audience.
Wow.
Did a live Q&A with the audience yesterday, and they're doing a presentation tomorrow on how to use film to impact students in the classroom. Just amazing.
Yeah, wow, what a great example. Pioneers in Skirts. And I guess 2 questions, follow up to that. The first one is if our audience is interested in learning more about that film, how do they access it?
Very simple. Go to pioneersinskirts.com. It's got all the information on there as far as how to use the film, how to watch the film, and a ton of swag, ton of information there. So and what's really cool is that the film also chronicles the journey of the producer and director, because I probably haven't even mentioned it. Both the producer and director are both female, and less than 4% of films across the world are made by a female producer and a female director.
Less than 4% have both a female producer and a female director.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's just fascinating. And I guess I don't necessarily think about film as a STEM field, but when you think about it, it is. I mean, all the technology that goes into producing great film. That's awesome. And then you also mentioned some of the challenges that are reflected in Pioneers in Skirts that women encounter in the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some examples of that? And then what can we or should we be doing to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so one of the things that the film talked about is the challenges when women or when families want to start a family, when a couple wants to start a family, and it follows this journey that this one female professional had, where her work only wanted to give her 2 weeks off after her daughter was born.
Wow.
Only 2 weeks off.
Crazy.
But then she was able to negotiate, and obviously there's federal laws and protection, the FMLA. So she was able actually to get 4 weeks off, but then the rest was unpaid leave. And what's sad is that she had to leave the company because, the company she worked for, the majority were men, right? So the benefits package. So, kind of thinking about, hey, our company's benefits package being inclusive for everyone. Does it provide the right health care for both men, women, whoever? So it just chronicled that. So that's a challenge that we don't think about, like healthcare benefits, but it does impact, especially our young people. When they look at jobs and careers, they're like, well, do I want a job where there's food every 50 feet, or do I want a job where I'm working in a cubicle staring at a screen the entire time?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, no, that's absolutely fascinating. We talk here at the Tech Ed Podcast a lot about what's been called the skills gap, or the shortage of skilled talent in the workforce. I almost hate using those words because they become so cliche, and everybody talks about them. Every single thing has its own silver lining, and I would tell you that in the case of the labor constraints that we've seen over the course of the last couple of years, companies have had to become a lot more flexible and innovative in the way that they're treating their team members and in the options that they're giving their employees. I'll just go on a quick tangent here. It was about, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, something like that. I don't know if you have it in Clark County, but where I'm from in southeast Wisconsin, they have this like top 100 workplaces. Have you seen that?
Yep.
And so they, the company employees can nominate their employer.
Okay.
And then they fill out a form, and then somebody goes through those and decides who gets to win that designation. And so about 5-6 years ago, for a magazine column that I read, I went through every single submission in the state of Wisconsin where I live, and I looked at what it was that employees were saying about their employer in terms of why they thought their employer was amazing. And there were 3 items on the list, and one of those items, and it boiled down to 3 things, and one of them was independence and giving people the ability to work independently, to kind of think about what their own future is going to look like, and then have a work schedule to the extent that the role allows it, that allows them to live their lives in the way that they want to live. And for us in several of the businesses that we own and run, that's been such a huge difference maker, is in attracting great talent. Yes. When we tell somebody, if you want to go running at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, go running. If you want to work from home on Thursdays, work from home. If one of our team members is growing their family, needs some time off to be able to care for a newborn, we're going to find a way to do that. And I think that's one of the silver linings that we've seen in the in the workforce in the last several years as a result of some of the challenges related to the shortage of skilled talent.
Yeah. The pandemic, I think, has really opened the eyes to many organizations, companies, and honestly, I hope it's opening the eyes to many educational organizations as well, right? Because too often, think about for the work world, why does learning only have to happen from like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon, right? Why does all students have to only stay in English class for 50 minutes, only stay in math class for 50 minutes? Why couldn't, if they need more help, stay in math class longer? If they don't need as much help in English, only stay in there 10, 15 minutes, move on. But our education system isn't built that way. Maybe one day it'll get there.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, we're starting to hear more and more about people understanding the need to disrupt the world of education. As I read the Wall Street Journal every day, 2 editorials this morning in the Wall Street Journal about education disruption and how we kind of change the way that we look at education. We had the superintendent of the school district of St. Paul, Minnesota, on with us about a year ago, and one of the things that he said is if you look at the typical American classroom, it really hasn't changed much since the 1950s.
No,
and
not
the
at
way
all.
that we deliver math learning and English and history and in these 50-minute increments or whatever. And he was asking a lot of the same questions now that you are, which is why does it have to be this way, and why can't we find some ways to disrupt the world of education? So I'm sure there's things that you're doing in Clark County to do exactly that. Is there any examples that come to mind?
Yeah. So one thing that we're doing, we just opened up a new school, a Central Technical Training Academy, and the idea behind this school is really to integrate more companies, more workforce experiences into education, right? So it shouldn't just be, okay, you're just in the classroom learning. You should be able to go out there and see how this learning is applied, companies. So having, in essence, like more field trips, I don't like that term field trips, more like industry tours, industry experiences, where students are going out there. And in my opinion, it's not only for CTE students, it's actually for all students. I think all students, we should spend more time in education where they're going outside of the school building and seeing how does this apply to what I want to do or what I'm passionate about. Because really, it's not K through 12 or K through 18 or 20 or whatever. It's really K to career, right? Education is all about helping students prepare for a career, having the necessary skills and tools and emotional intelligence to be successful in a career. So I really think, opening our school doors to more opportunities, allowing more companies to come in. And yes, guest speakers are great, but having them have discussions, roundtables. We have one school that does lunch and learns every Friday. So they invite 5 to 10 business professionals every Friday, and they have students come and sit and have lunch. The best part about it is students have to leave their cell phone at the door. So they're forced to engage and talk to these business professionals on, hey, what do you do? Do you like your job? How is it? How much money do you make? What are the benefits? So on and so forth.
Well, and what I love about that is the cadence that you've set up in that model. So if you think about one of the examples I like to use, there's a company in the Midwest, large company, everybody listening to us would recognize the name of the company if we shared it, that did an annual career day with its local high school. And the whole high school or students that were interested would come, and they would come on a day in October during manufacturing month. And somebody finally asked, are we really making a difference? Is this helping? And they went 6 months later, so they went back to all of the students that had gone on the
Mm-hmm.
tour in April of the following year, right? So 6 months after they did the tour. And they said, what do you remember about the tour of this company? And the student answers, they said, first of all, not only did many of the students not have a single takeaway that they could recall from the tour,
Oh, wow.
but a lot of them didn't even remember going on the tour. And so the beauty of what you're doing there, that cadence of every
Yes.
single week,
Yes.
getting this new experience, having a different organization come in, being able to answer really, really candid questions in really candid ways, so super important. And in a way that not every single speaker is going to resonate with every single student, but
Right.
but some of them are going to resonate with certain students, and that's how we inspire future careers. So really, really cool work.
Yeah. You know what? We did almost that same thing with our Girls in STEM, Girls in Tech program, is that 3 months after girls would attend an event, we asked them the same question. So after the event, we asked them, hey, what'd you like? They were super passionate, super excited about careers in STEM and technology.
Yeah.
3 months later, we saw a 60% drop in their excitement and their desire to go into a STEM field. So then we convened a group of students. Let's ask them. We grouped that group of students. What would you do, or what was the reason why? So the biggest reason why is because since that opportunity, they never had another opportunity to find out more about a STEM technology career, to get hands-on with that equipment, those resources. So, and then the other comment the students made is that my parents, my caregivers, my guardians, my family at home didn't understand it as well.
Right.
So what we did is now every month we host what we call STEM Saturdays, where students can come, bring their families, aunts, relatives, grandma, neighbors, everyone, and come. They watch a STEM film, they hear from a STEM professional, and they can do a STEM activity, STEM technology activity. And we've really started to see more interest in STEM and technology. Basically, more students, more female students, more minority, African American, Hispanic students enroll in those STEM and technology courses.
So the interest in STEM careers, especially on those underserved populations, continuing to grow. Thanks in huge part to the incredible work that you're doing, Snehal. I think we've got time for just one last question. It's a question we ask every guest on the Tech Ed podcast. You've got a high school age daughter. You're working with students of that age all the time, inspiring them toward careers in STEM. If you had one piece of advice to offer to a sophomore in high school, what would that be?
Wow, one piece of advice. So the one piece of advice I would offer or I would ask the sophomore, I would say, hey, how do you want to change the world? What's going to be your ding in the universe, as I think Steve Jobs would say? And the advice that I would give sophomores as well, try everything and anything as much as you want. Try as much as you want, because just like with my daughter, I encourage her, I support her to try whatever she wants. She wants to try soccer one day, she wants to try engineering, she wants to try coding, she wants to be in medicine. I encourage and support her. So I think for us, the advice we should give is that, hey, we should be supporting them, and for them, they should try as much as they want, because eventually they'll find what sticks, whether it's STEM, technology, whatever, but they'll find what they're passionate about, and then they go after, and they just change the world from there.
Try as much as you want, finding that ding in the universe,
Yes.
changing the world from there. You're doing some great things, Snehal, changing the world in Clark County. Snehal Bhakta, the Assistant Director of CTE for the Clark County School District, has been our guest here on the Tech Ed podcast, live from CareerTech Vision. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.